Right now, as you watch this, your brain is smaller than it was 5 years ago, not because of aging, because of the device in your pocket.
Recent studies show that heavy smartphone use is physically shrinking your brain, reducing gray matter in the exact regions responsible for decision-making, emotional control, and impulse regulation. The average person unlocks their phone 96 times a day. That's once every 10 minutes you're awake, and every single time, your brain pays a price.
But here's what the research also shows. In just 30 days without your phone, your brain can start to reverse this. Today, I'm going to walk you through, week by week, what actually happens inside your brain when you disconnect. Not opinions, not a personal experiment, the neuroscience. And by the end, I'll give you the exact 5-step protocol to make it happen.
Before we get into the recovery, you need to understand the damage, and it's worse than you think. Dr. Anna Lembke, a psychiatrist at Stanford and one of the world's leading experts on addiction, calls the smartphone the modern-day hypodermic needle. And she's not being dramatic. The neuroscience backs her up.
Every notification, every like, every new post triggers a small hit of dopamine, the neurotransmitter your brain uses to signal reward. That's the same chemical pathway activated by gambling, alcohol, and yes, cocaine.
A 2024 systematic review published in Human Behavior and Emerging Technologies found that people with problematic smartphone use show reduced gray matter volume in the orbital frontal cortex, the brain region that handles decision-making and emotional processing. They also found reductions in the anterior cingulate cortex, which regulates impulse control, and the caudate nucleus, which is critical for executive function. In simple terms, the parts of your brain responsible for saying no, for making good decisions, and for controlling your impulses are physically smaller in heavy phone users.
Now here's where it gets even more unsettling. Researchers at the University of Texas found something they called brain drain. The mere presence of your smartphone in the room, even if it's face down, even if it's turned off, measurably reduces your cognitive capacity. Your brain is using resources just to resist the temptation of checking it. You're literally getting dumber just by having your phone nearby.
And consider these numbers. The average American spends 4 to 5 hours a day on their phone. Human attention span has dropped from 12 seconds in the year 2000 to 8.25 seconds today, shorter than a goldfish. Our screen-based attention has collapsed from 2.5 minutes in 2004 to just 47 seconds in 2024. A 2025 study found that heavy users, people on their phones 5 or more hours a day, are 33% more likely to experience attention fragmentation, and their working memory efficiency drops by 11%.
Your phone isn't just distracting you, it's restructuring your brain. But here's where this story changes. Because everything I just described, it's reversible. Your brain is neuroplastic. It can change. It rewired itself to be dependent on your phone, which means it can rewire itself back. And that's exactly what happens over 30 days. Let me show you how, starting with day 1.
Let's be honest about what the first few days look like, because they're not pretty. Within hours of putting your phone down, your brain enters withdrawal. And I'm using that word deliberately, because neurologically, that's exactly what's happening.
Your brain has been receiving a constant stream of dopamine microhits, notifications, scrolling, new content, messages. Now that stream has been cut off, and your brain does not handle that well. You'll likely experience what researchers call phantom vibrations, the sensation that your phone is buzzing in your pocket when it isn't there. Studies show that nearly 90% of people experience this. It's your brain's reward system sending false signals, searching for the dopamine it's been conditioned to expect.
During these first 72 hours, you'll feel restless, anxious, bored in a way that feels almost physical. Your brain is essentially throwing a tantrum because its primary dopamine source has disappeared.
But here's what's happening beneath the surface that you can't feel yet. Your dopamine receptors, which have been blunted by constant stimulation, are beginning to upregulate. Think of it like this. If you've been blasting music at maximum volume for years, you stop hearing the quiet songs. Your brain has to turn the volume back down, and that process starts within the first 72 hours. Research on neuroplasticity and digital detox shows that just 3 days of intentional digital silence begins to kickstart your brain's rewiring process. Functional connectivity in your prefrontal cortex, the decision-making center that's been exhausted from constant tab switching and notification checking, starts to recover. Day 1 feels like awareness. Day 2 feels like clarity beginning to push through fog. Day 3 is when most people report the first real shift, a depth of thought they haven't experienced in months.
But here's where most people quit. The discomfort of these 3 days convinces them the experiment isn't working. In reality, it's the strongest evidence that it is. If you can push through day 3, everything changes.
By the end of your first week, the data gets remarkable. A study published in JAMA Network Open found that after just 1 week of social media detox, participants experienced a 16.1% drop in anxiety symptoms, a 24.8% reduction in depression, and a 14.5% decrease in insomnia. Let that land for a second. 1 week. No medication, no therapy, just removing a device from your daily life.
Here's what's happening neurologically. Your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, responsible for planning, decision-making, and impulse control, has been running on fumes. Every time you switched between apps, checked a notification, or got pulled into a new scroll session, your brain paid what neuroscientists call a switch cost. Glucose burned, attention fragmented, cognitive resources depleted. After a week without that constant barrage, your prefrontal cortex begins to recover. Decision fatigue decreases. You start making choices with more clarity.
Sleep improves significantly in this first week, and this isn't just about feeling more rested. During deep sleep, your brain's glymphatic system clears metabolic waste, essentially power washing your neural pathways. When screen time disrupts your sleep architecture, that cleaning process gets compromised. 1 week off, and your brain starts getting the deep maintenance it's been missing.
And then there's boredom. You will be bored, genuinely, deeply bored. And this might be the most important part of the entire process. Boredom activates your default mode network, the brain system responsible for creativity, self-reflection, future planning, and making connections between ideas. This is the network that gives you your best ideas in the shower. It's where aha moments come from. Constant phone use suppresses your default mode network. You never give it space to activate. 1 week in, you're giving your brain the silence it needs to think, really think, for the first time in years.
Quick question. Drop your daily screen time in the comments right now. I want to see if it matches the research averages. Because if it's over 4 hours, everything I just described is happening in your brain.
Stay with me, because week 2 is where people around you start to notice something different. Your attention span, which has been fragmented into 47-second microbursts by years of rapid content consumption, begins to rebuild. And not in some abstract way, in measurable, practical ways. You can read for longer without reaching for something. Conversations feel different. You're actually present in them. You can sit with a single task for 20, 30, 40 minutes without the pull of distraction.
Your brain's attention system operates on a balance between 2 networks. The task-positive network, which focuses you on what you're doing right now, and the default mode network, which we just talked about. In a healthy brain, these 2 alternate naturally. You focus, you rest. You focus, you rest. Chronic phone use disrupts this balance. Your brain gets stuck in a rapid switching state, never fully focused, never fully at rest. It's the neural equivalent of revving an engine in neutral.
By week 2, that balance is restoring. Your brain is remembering how to transition smoothly between focused attention and restful mind wandering. Working memory, your ability to hold and manipulate information in your mind, starts recovering from that 11% deficit.
And here's something the studies found that nobody talks about. People in week 2 of digital detox consistently report that their emotional responses change. They become less reactive, more measured, less likely to spiral into frustration or anxiety over small things. This makes perfect sense neurologically. The amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, has been hyperactivated by the constant novelty and social comparison of smartphone content. With that stimulation removed, the amygdala begins to calm. And when the amygdala is calmer, the prefrontal cortex can do its job better.
regulating emotions instead of being overwritten by them. You're not just getting your attention back, you're getting your emotional stability back.
Week 3 is what researchers call the sweet spot. A 2025 study covered by both NPR and Harvard found that 3 weeks appears to be the optimal break length for maximum mental health benefit. The improvements in anxiety, depression, and overall well-being that started in week 1 continue to deepen and stabilize here.
By this point, your brain's reward system has substantially recalibrated. The dopamine baseline, the level of dopamine your brain produces at rest, has risen back towards its natural set point. This means everyday experiences start feeling rewarding again. A walk outside, a meal with someone, a good conversation. Activities that felt flat and unstimulating 3 weeks ago now carry genuine pleasure. Dr. Lembke describes this as the pleasure-pain balance resetting. When you flood your brain with easy dopamine from constant stimulation, the brain compensates by dulling its response to everything. Remove the flood, and sensitivity returns.
Self-regulation and impulse control, the exact capacities that were weakened by phone overuse, are now measurably stronger. You're not just resisting the urge to check your phone. You're building a brain that doesn't need to check it. This is neuroplasticity in action. Your brain has spent 3 weeks forming new pathways around non-digital sources of reward, focus, and connection. And those pathways are starting to solidify.
Now, if you've made it this far, you already understand more about your brain and your phone than 99% of people. But this last week is where it gets permanent. Week 4 is where short-term recovery starts becoming long-term change. Research on neuroplasticity shows that consistent behavioral changes, maintained for roughly 30 days, begin producing structural changes in the brain. Gray matter density can start increasing in the prefrontal cortex, the region most damaged by chronic phone use.
The neural pathways you've been building for 4 weeks around deeper focus, genuine social connection, better sleep, emotional regulation are now physically encoded in your brain architecture. They're not fragile new habits anymore. They're becoming your brain's new default. This doesn't mean the old pathways disappear. The neural circuits built by years of phone use are still there. They've weakened, but they haven't vanished. This is why day 31 matters just as much as day 1. The question isn't whether you can quit your phone for 30 days. It's what relationship you build with it afterward.
And that brings us to the practical part. I'm not going to tell you to throw your phone in a lake. That's not realistic and it's not necessary. Cal Newport, a computer science professor at Georgetown and author of Digital Minimalism, recommends a 30-day declutter. Not cold turkey on everything, but a systematic removal of optional technology. Social media, news apps, games, endless browsing. You keep the tools you genuinely need, calls, maps, messages, and strip away everything designed to hijack your dopamine system.
Here's a practical protocol based on the research. Step 1. The logout bomb. Log out of every non-essential app. Don't delete them, just log out. This creates friction. Your brain is wired to follow the path of least resistance. A login screen is often enough to break the autopilot loop.
Step 2. Phone out of the bedroom. Buy a $5 alarm clock. Charge your phone in another room. This single change protects your sleep architecture and eliminates the first thing in the morning and last thing at night scrolling that bookend your worst habits.
Step 3. Grayscale mode. Your phone's colorful interface is engineered to trigger dopamine. Switch your display to grayscale. It's remarkably effective at making your phone feel less appealing. Step 4. Replace, don't just remove. Neuroplasticity needs new inputs. If you take away 4 hours of phone time and fill it with nothing, boredom will eventually drive you back. Replace it deliberately. Read. Walk without headphones. Have conversations. Exercise. Give your brain new pathways to build.
Step 5. Track one metric. Check your screen time report on day 1 and day 30. Having a concrete number makes the invisible visible and gives you proof that your brain chose differently. The goal isn't to become a monk, it's to shift from unconscious consumption to intentional use. To take back the decision-making power your phone has been quietly stealing from your prefrontal cortex.
Your brain is not broken. It's adapted. It adapted to a world that feeds it constant stimulation,
and it did exactly what it was designed to do. It changed in response to its environment. The same mechanism that rewired your brain toward distraction can rewire it toward focus, presence, and clarity. 30 days. That's what the science says.
Try this tonight. Charge your phone outside your bedroom. One change. See what your morning feels like. Drop your screen time in the comments. I want to see the real numbers. Hit subscribe if you want the science behind your next breakthrough. And watch this next, because your brain has another system working against you that nobody talks about.